Sports fans love to talk about who the greatest of all time is. But in wheelchair basketball, there's no debate. Just a name. And that name is Patrick Anderson.
For Anderson, 6 for him already here. Anderson, and he knocks it in.
Makes it look so easy.
It always amazes me how people are discovering Patrick Anderson for the first time.
Pat is a super unique player to watch. He doesn't do anything that I would say is, this is how we teach it.
Canucks down by 3.
I mean, people have said in a cliche sort of way that he's the Michael Jordan of wheelchair basketball, but I don't think that that's too far a stretch. He is quite simply the greatest player in that sport that I've ever seen.
Patrick Anderson looking for an opportunity, finds it and hits it.
When I saw him dominating players that were dominating me, I realized why he was called the Michael Jordan of wheelchair basketball.
Pat was made for wheelchair basketball, plain and simple. He is the most natural player that I have ever seen.
I think there's been times in the last 20 years that Patrick Anderson's been the best athlete in Canada. Full stop.
This is Sitting Tall, the Patrick Anderson story.
My name is Patrick Anderson. I am a wheelchair basketball player with Team Canada, 3-time Paralympic gold medalist, 1-time silver medalist. At this point in my career, I spent a lot of time talking about my career in past tense. And maybe it's because right now, after a few weeks of practice, I'm feeling less like Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan and much more like Washington Wizards Michael Jordan. And that's not how I want to feel going into the Paralympics trying to win.
After 10 years away from the Paralympics, Patrick is returning to the Canadian team for the Tokyo 2020 Games. For the past year, he's been training alone in the United States, where he lives with his wife and 3 children.
We are in our apartment in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. We moved to Brooklyn about 10 years ago when we got married because you get a little bit more bang for your buck than you do in Manhattan. At least you did back then. I've been away from the national team for, I guess, over a year now because of the pandemic. You know, the border's been closed. So I've been training here on my own and keeping in touch with the guys, obviously, as well as I can over Zoom and text and stuff like that.
Have you ever walked at midnight underneath the moonlight? Has the world around you ever just stood still?
I'd always left the door open to come back for another Paralympics. I made that decision when I was 37 or something like that. I knew I was going to be 41 someday when the games rolled around, or I guess I'll be 42 now. I didn't necessarily know, though, firsthand what that would feel like and the challenges and extra time that it would take to keep my body and mind prepared and I didn't know we'd have 3 kids and everything like that. So I knew it'd be a challenge. I didn't know the challenge would quite take this shape. We got some young guys who've been putting a lot of work in. I haven't seen them in over a year, so I'm just excited to see how they're doing, how they're looking. They've been practicing together for a few months without me, and now I get to go in there and stir the pot, and I think that would be good for all of us. Just mixing it up with them and also seeing what kind of development the other players have made it as individuals and as a group without me. How my game, where it's at right now, which in some ways, I don't know, was pretty sharp given all the time I've had to work by myself on certain things over the last year, so how we can kind of quickly glue that together in the next couple of weeks and take that out to Tokyo and win some games. The last year is just sort of in a new way captured part of my life, which is that my home is here in New York, but part of my heart is still in Canada. I want to be here with my family, but I also want to be with the team, and I can't have both at the same time.
While Patrick trains on his own, the Canadian national team is hard at work in Toronto.
We're 44 days today away from the Paralympics. It's business time. My name's Nick Gonchin. I play wheelchair basketball for the Canadian men's team. After Pat left in 2012, we didn't do so great. It was an understatement, let's put it that way. And so I think this is his, like, let's see if I can help the program get back to like where it was before I left.
I'm Scott Russell, and I am the host of the Olympic and Paralympic Games on CBC Television, which is the public broadcaster in our country. I don't think that he would ever want to see wheelchair basketball in this country, in Canada, fall into disrepair.
It's becoming more important as we get closer that we get him up here, and from a chemistry standpoint, from a physical standpoint, the guy's training. He's playing in Europe. No one's worried about that, but it's a team sport, and there's a chemistry that goes along with it.
Nice, Bobby!
My name is Rob Snook, and I'm a sports broadcaster. Patrick Anderson coming back should make everyone else feel a little taller.
It's how we all feel when he comes. He instills confidence in most of the players. Having the best player on your team obviously makes you feel good about your chances.
I'm Blaise Matoire, and I play for Team Canada on the wheelchair basketball team. We miss Pat a lot. We miss having him with us at practice. He's definitely a leader for us.
I'm Chad Jasmine. I'm a 1.5 classification, so I play like a guard type position. Oh, there's definitely challenges of playing with Pat. Sometimes you almost feel like he's playing chess and you're playing checkers. Bringing him back, though, is definitely, it's a different feel because he's so dominant on the court and really doesn't like to lose, so practice intensity goes up.
Box, box! Pretty good. Stop!
I think he's on the way, so that's good.
We're not super worried. We know Pat's a known quantity. You know what he brings to the table all the time.
Next one, Jazzy!
My name is Vincent Dallaire. I am from Quebec City, Quebec. Having Pat on the team, I think, makes it easier but harder at the same time. I think it makes it easier because we know we have a chance to win because it's Pat, right? But it also makes it harder because every team now is going to bring their A game because they want to beat Pat.
I haven't been able to be as present with the team as I'd planned or as I'd hoped, especially in this last run towards Tokyo. And feels like a little bit like we're trying to glue it together, sort of a little bit last minute.
The challenge for Patrick Anderson, as it is with all great athletes, is to continually grow the sport and to grow as a person within the sport. And I think that's why he keeps coming back to it, because he hasn't fully realized himself as a basketball player. The game is constantly changing, it's constantly growing, and he wants and has a need to prove to himself and to others that he can still be at the leading edge of the growth of the game. If you've got a player that can dominate as he can, they're a contender for a medal come Tokyo. Because Patrick Anderson, as soon as he has the ball, there's a good chance it's going in the bucket.
With just weeks before the team leaves for Tokyo, Patrick arrives at the Toronto airport. It's his first time in Canada in almost 2 years.
There are different factors that come into play when I think about how much longer I want to play. And can my body hold up? Am I still motivated? But yeah, the time away from home and away from the kids is starting to weigh a little more and more heavily and become a bigger and bigger factor. Every time I go away, it just gets a little bit harder.
Patrick is staying in a local university dorm room while training with the team in Scarborough.
When I was trying to decide whether I wanted to make a run at Tokyo or not, some of it came down to I sort of have a responsibility. This is my last real window to be elite. Oh, nice. I know I'm good at it, and I know that people enjoy watching me play. Maybe not everybody, but enough people that make me feel like I have a responsibility. This is living the dream, boys. being here by myself in this empty apartment, and it's out in the fringes of Toronto. It feels a little lonely at times. Kind of just find it amusing. Like, there must be something about wheelchair basketball that I really love, you know? It's like you would go to the ends of the earth to chase that woman of your dreams.
Patrick was born in a small town east of Toronto, where from an early age, everything revolved around hockey.
What can I say? I was kind of a typical Canadian kid growing up.
Hi, I am Patrick Anderson's mom, Marg, and
I'm Vic Anderson, Patrick Anderson's father.
he was determined, and he was a little spitfire, and I thought that that kind of stuff I had to knock out of him, and it turned out to be his strength.
He was an amazing hockey player, right from an early age. We started him out when he was 5 years old.
I lived for hockey practice, shinny at the park, Cosum hockey at lunchtime at school, intramurals.
Patrick was a left winger, and his main attribute was driving down the left wing, sort of like Mark Messier for the Oilers. My big dream for Patrick was that he'd achieve the highest level possible, whether that would be the OHL, which I think he could have made, or even the NHL.
But at the age of 9, Patrick's life changed forever.
My accident is, in some ways, is so far in the rearview mirror that it feels a little bit weird to even talk about it too much or think about it. But, you know, I'm a parent now and young kids, and I guess there was, you know, maybe a year or two ago where it kind of hit me like, oh, I couldn't imagine watching my kid go through something like that. So I don't say that to make anyone feel bad about what happened necessarily. It's just, I guess maybe for the first time, opened my eyes to what my parents went through, and
It was a night of the eclipse of the moon, and so everybody was outside. That's why the kids were out. They were all waiting for something to happen.
And he was sitting on a picnic table with 3 or 4 other kids, and his friends' common-law parents came home from the bar in Elora.
we noticed that they were arguing, and I sort of stopped paying attention, looked away.
And instead of turning into the driveway, they shot across the lawn, hit the picnic table that the kids were on, and drove the picnic table into the front of the brick house.
I just sort of looked back at the last moment, a little bit too late. Got trapped between the car and the house. Sort of blackout from there for a couple days, and then woke up in a hospital bed and pulled the sheets down. Said, oh, I got no legs.
And I went into the emergency room and I see all these kids. And the one little boy whose house it was at, he was crying, and the nurses were saying he's inconsolable. So I went over to him. And he just kept saying, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. I tried to grab him and I couldn't grab him.
I remember it being emotionally kind of confusing because I had this accident, and then a few days later I had my birthday and I got the most incredible gifts, a Nintendo, Batman gear, a Walkman. It was like the best birthday of my life. I don't know about feeling sad. I certainly felt angry at times. I remember sitting at times and looking out into the hallway and seeing people walk down the hallway, and you know, it's sort of hitting me that I can't do that. I'm just thinking, this isn't fair. I remember saying that out loud. This isn't fair. This is not how it's supposed to be. I was angry.
Patrick, they tell me that you haven't let your accident slow you down a bit. How come?
Even though it doesn't bother me to think about it, I just don't, because it's a waste of my time, and I just go on and don't bother.
My name is Bruce Russell. I've played wheelchair basketball since 1976. When Patrick was around 9 years old, he came to a wheelchair sports camp.
I remember having to drive him over to Kitchener-Waterloo and leaving him with all of these adults who I didn't know. And I was apprehensive because I wanted to protect my son, but I had to let him go and experience this.
The first time I saw him play wheelchair basketball is he couldn't get the ball up to the net. He would take shots and it wouldn't even reach the rim.
I desperately wanted to be a hockey player, both before and after my accident. But when I went and played sledge hockey, it was much more of a therapeutic rec kind of sport. And so I get in trouble for shooting the puck too hard because it was going to hurt somebody. That was the vibe I got at sledge hockey. It's like, I'm having a lot of fun here, but when I go to wheelchair basketball practice and I crash into someone and I go flying out of my chair, everyone kind of laughs and picks me up and throws me back in my chair and we're off again. Playing wheelchair basketball was like the first time I forgot that I was in a wheelchair, if that makes sense. Just felt like I was playing basketball, not sitting in a wheelchair playing basketball.
When most of our older players saw Pat Anderson for the first time, we knew that he was a high potential athlete.
Off the court, Bruce, was the person who opened my eyes to a lot of the opportunities that were out there in this sort of life path that was in front of me should I choose to take it.
Johnson gets his right way around Jabari, makes the bucket and will go to the line for the extra. It's Canada in front for the first time.
My name is Joey Johnson. I've been involved in wheelchair basketball for about 38 years now. I played in 5 Paralympic Games with Team Canada, winning 3 golds. I've coached, Tokyo will be my 2nd games now, so a total of 7 Paralympic Games. Well, at the age of 14, Pat was, he was a tall, lanky kid, so that made him ideal for wheelchair basketball. Having no legs also made him really quick and agile in his chair. But at that age, he was by far taller than every other kid playing the sport at that time, and he was quicker, and he had a shot that he just wouldn't miss.
And it's picked up by Anderson. Anderson, fast break down the court. Has Burns with him. Anderson keeps, puts it up, and puts it in.
By the time he was 15, I told him that we had to have a talk with his parents. I told Vic and Marg that he will be the best player in the world if he works at it.
Burns eyes up the hoop, puts it up. Anderson comes up with the rebound. Anderson, one hand there, puts it up. Nice shot by Anderson.
That kind of blew us away.
That wasn't real. That wasn't real to us. It wasn't a world we lived in. We were trying to get him walking on his prosthetics. We were living in a totally different part of Patrick's life. It didn't register. I thought, that's nice, Bruce. You have dreams. I appreciate your dreams. I can't imagine that they're real, but so be it.
He was teasing him there for a bit.
After a 24-hour quarantine and a negative COVID test, Patrick finally reunites with his teammates.
I'm excited Pat's coming back today. We really missed him, so we gotta have to show him what we got. It's been a long time coming.
Excited for today? Yeah. For me, it's like I've been pushing a lot, but just the contact, it's like, yeah. Especially here, like Turkey was, big dudes over there. Basketball was good, but they're not as rough.
Feels good to be back. In some ways, it feels like just yesterday I was out here with these guys. As far as the team goes, I'm confident. Guys seem to be dialed into their role, and a lot of positive feedback, a lot of accountability flowing. It's great.
Okay, so to push low.
Today I think we're going to get into it a little bit more with the X's and O's. If the refs come, I think we're going to play a little game and apply some of these things in a game context, which is going to be the challenge this summer in the next few weeks, is making this feel like a game. It's one thing to practice, another thing to actually play and deal with the refs and shot clock and all that kind of stuff.
fantastic to have Pat back. I think some people maybe forgot how quick and shifty he is in his chair, so it's been a little bit of adaptation for defense and stuff like that, but I mean, it's awesome to have him back.
There's a lot of not finding out like what might work, but what works best in any given lineup, any given side of the court, situation, depending on the defense. So we're at that point where we got to be specific and kind of efficient and opportunistic, and we don't have a lot of time to do that. So I'm sort of aware of that as I'm out there. It's not just about having fun and getting on the same page, generally speaking, with the guys. It's like really sharpening the tools.
The biggest challenge is going to be continuing to develop with him here.
That's the thing with Patty. You can't let him bait you into being in awe with him, because you'll forget what you're doing just watching greatness play on the court. So we kind of have to get it out of our head that he's Pat. Even Nick in one of our timeouts was saying Pat's a basketball player. He's not a god. We have to play him as a basketball player, and it's tough because he's doing godlike stuff on the court, and sometimes you just can get yourself caught.
We haven't had Pat at practice for about 2 years, so we've been working on things, working on plays without them in these sets. So putting him back into the mix isn't just as easy as putting him back into the mix. And as you probably know, Pat has this aura around him. And sometimes that goes for his own players and his own teammates. He's part of the team, he's gotta be one of us. We have to integrate him into the system that we have right now. And part of that is being aggressive and putting him on the ground if he has to go on the ground.
There's a few hard fouls in there that didn't put me in the greatest mood.
You're kind of like playing with that line of maybe I'm going too hard or not hard enough. And do we cross the line sometimes? Yeah, I fouled him today a little bit harder than maybe I was planning on doing, but that's what happens when you're playing with that line.
I want to come out of here and set a high bar. I want to show the guys I've been working hard, but I have to be more aware than ever that I can't beat myself down over the next 3 weeks physically. So that doesn't help the team at all. And at my age, I got to be conservative. I think it's just been a long week. Saying goodbye to the family, being isolated in these dorms that are out in the woods. I don't know, I'm tired and feeling a little bit beat up, so it feels like the right time for a weekend.
1, 2, 3, Number 45, Patrick Anderson.
By the age of 15, Patrick was already a star in the world of wheelchair basketball.
I had a lot of people pumping my tires right from the get-go, for better or worse. But I think in '95, when I competed in the Canada Games, was when I had a real sense that I could not only make the national team someday, but have an impact internationally and maybe even be a star. I was 15 and I was holding my own against 18, 19, 20, 22-year-olds. I think that gave me kind of confidence.
Well, he immediately stood out. He has so much skill evident in his game.
We had a great generation of players, most of whom were just a little bit older than me. So I just felt like I was around a bunch of big brothers who protected me, helped raise me, and empowered me, lifted me up, and let me do my thing.
First time getting to play with Pat would have been 1997, the World Junior Championships here in Toronto. We tried out for the senior team together that year and went right into the World Juniors in August of that year. And things went well. We won the gold medal, first gold medal for Canada at that tournament. It was the inaugural tournament for World Juniors, so it was pretty special.
He makes an immediate impact in 1997, 1998, when they win the World Junior Championship.
Pat really put his, mark on that tournament. He got MVP, was leading scorer. Pat kind of came out and, really showed the world how special of a player he really was.
So at that point in time, everybody knows that Patrick Anderson becomes the future of Canadian wheelchair basketball. And that's going to translate not only to the World Championships, but it's going to translate to the Paralympic Games, which is the pinnacle of the sport. And that's sort of the launching pad for him in terms of his international recognition.
No matter what's happening for Patrick on the court, the one constant in his life is the support of his parents. So today, he's headed home to pay them a visit.
Hey, Pat.
Pops.
How's it going?
Tired.
Good to see you.
Likewise. What do we do? Oh, wow. Didn't we have a handshake once upon a time?
We did.
It's been a long time.
Something like that. How was your trip and everything? How was your flight? And
I'm here. I
haven't seen you for a year.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, we talk on FaceTime a lot, though.
Yeah. So
we didn't forget what you looked like.
No, same ugly face, but another layer of bags under my eyes. It's been a long week. Where's Mom?
Mom's out grocery shopping, buying food for you.
Sounds good.
She knew you were coming home, so I think she has special food for you.
It's my mommy. All right, well, how about that beer?
Okay, let's go in. See if you recognize the old place.
There was a time in my career where I felt like the result was based on me and how I played and the kind of performance I had. And that was probably just my ego talking as much as anything, but also because I was a younger, more dominant player.
Let's have some basketball.
Underway in the gold medal match, this between the Netherlands and Canada.
I think the first time I saw him play, I was a Paralympic athlete in Sydney. That would have been the first time where you kind of went, wow, like just wow.
Oh, yes.
In those days, disability was a big part of Paralympic sport. But when someone kind of makes you forget about that, that's what I think Patrick did for me the first time.
Early in the second half. Clean shooting once again from Anderson.
Heading into Australia, we were the new kids on the block, but we were ready to win. We weren't just happy to be there. We were there to win a gold medal.
A wonderful performance by the Canadians. They have absolutely dominated.
It was Canada's first gold medal in men's wheelchair basketball, and we just felt like we were making history. So we were just super excited and also a bit overwhelmed. It felt amazing.
So he becomes in Sydney the key member of Canada's wheelchair basketball team.
2004 was special because we literally dismantled teams out there. Like, I think our closest game was 17 or 19 points, and that was in the gold medal game there.
The first time I saw him play in real life was in Beijing in 2008. And I remember meeting him before they played the game. And, you know, I had heard so much about him and what kind of skill he had and his ability to dominate the game. But he, I could tell, was a sort of a complex character.
Sydney was amazing. Athens was defending our title and really setting a high bar. And then 2 years later, we won Worlds, and it was the last box that I had to check off in my career of, career achievements. I didn't realize I was checking boxes, but given the fact that, like, a few days later, I just sort of, like, at breakfast put my fork down and, like, something changed. I felt like a rubber band had snapped inside of me. I was like, I didn't realize that thing was pulled that tight. And for the first time since I started playing wheelchair basketball, until that moment, I felt like, oh, I don't have to play wheelchair basketball.
He was kind of the lost soul at that time, not knowing what he wanted to do. He got to the top of the sport at a relatively young age.
Beijing was the first time in my career where I felt like I had one foot out the door.
Perhaps the biggest moment of adversity in his career is not being able to win the gold medal in Beijing in 2008. those were huge Paralympic Games in terms of awareness to a huge population. I would imagine that was a very tough time for him.
I don't know if it was the pressure, but I knew the stresses he was under in life and basketball. And if you're not having fun doing it, why are you doing it, right?
You know, I don't want to take anything away from Australia for beating us in the gold medal game. I don't want to say it was just because I wasn't quite committed. But that silver medal, when I looked at it, I was just like, I don't like this feeling. I don't, you know.
When Canada lost the gold medal game in Beijing, Patrick retired. He was done. He felt like he had a pretty good career. I've heard him say this before, you know, 2 gold medals and a silver, nothing wrong with that. You know, time to do some other things.
I think he would tell you that any great athlete is that great because it's not their whole life.
Anna and I met at my best friend's wedding. You know, we connected over music. We were both playing music in this wedding. I kind of knew right away, but I didn't want to let on because I'm too cool for school like that. And the feeling just kind of only got stronger over the following couple years. I didn't realize that years later we would start making music together and writing songs together.
Patrick and I formed a little musical recording duo called The Layawakes.
You are my home, away from home. Knowing that you are alone made me less alone.
He is a talented guitar player and singer. I do more of the songwriting.
You know, she sort of has a classical background. I have like a John Denver campfire sing-along kind of background, and it was fun to sort of put those together. And I really like, you know, what came out of it. I don't know what's going to happen after basketball, but one thing I know for sure is Anna has a handful of songs that she wrote over the last couple years that we need to record one way or another. I'm enjoying the moment. I'm staying focused on Tokyo, but at the same time, I'm really looking forward to seeing where the music goes down the road.
And so at times, Patrick chooses to focus on his musical career. But he also feels a devotion to this sport, which has meant so much to his life.
At some point during that next quadrennial, you know, found the desire and the passion to come back, and then found a way, found a motivation to turn that silver from Beijing, you know, into a chase for gold in London.
I remember watching the London final in 2012 in my room by myself.
When I think back to that game, I just remember being very nervous. I got off to a great start in that game, and I just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like it was my day. Then we got into the second half, and it got kind of tight. You know, it had all the drama. I broke my chair in the third quarter and had to play in my backup chair, and then it was really tight right down to the end.
We're trading baskets, and suddenly we edged them for the lead and started pulling ahead, and you could see the momentum building and like 20,000 people in the stands going crazy, and it was just an unreal moment when that like final buzzer went off and we looked at the scoreboard and we're up by 4 points or whatever.
He just decided to take it to a different level, and that was what I think he separated himself from. The conversation of being the best ever, I think it's undoubtedly, like, I don't think we could argue about where he stands in the history books as far as a wheelchair basketball player goes.
I look back on it with particular fondness because, you know, under all that pressure, I feel like I played one of the best games in my career. I'm really proud of that. And I got to do it in front of my wife, no less, and, you know, wave to her when as the seconds ticked off the clock at the end.
I remember going to my parents that didn't know anything was happening, didn't know national team was a thing, didn't know a Paralympic final was that day. And I was like, hey, Canada won. They're like, oh, well, that's cool. But I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
34 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. He's in on everything to win the gold medal.
Everyone on the opposition knew that he was the key, and they still couldn't stop him. Together, they found a way to kind of conquer that mountain.
With only 5 days to go before Tokyo, Patrick and the team hit the court for a final practice.
This week we decided to structure like the first 5 games in Tokyo, so with the same game times and everything, so that we can run through our pregame, our warm-up, our postgame.
Right now it's kind of crunch time, trying to fine-tune all of our plays, fine-tune our intensity, just getting ready for the intensity that's going to be in Tokyo.
I'm feeling out like the workload and trying to push myself to see what these 5 days will feel like in Tokyo, but not hurt myself at the same time. And so I've been working hard in New York, but you can't really mimic all the banging and falling and stuff like that adds up. It's a bit of a test run for me physically and emotionally. And you know, right now I'm tired. It's Thursday and pretty worn down, but that's part of the process.
The secret to today is just not get caught watching Pat. Just make sure, you know, give him a hard look at the basket.
Going left, I'm left. Shot, box out. We're just continuing to work on some lineups, some old lineups, some new lineups, develop chemistry, see what's working, maybe what's not working.
Going to Tokyo, we have something to prove, obviously. Everybody wants to play Canada, everyone wants to play Pat and prove something. So we're always gonna have everybody's A game, right? Come on, Red.
Got Blaze, boxing out.
There was one point there, I think he was turning into a Showtime Pat. I could tell he really wanted to take me to the hole, and we have that a lot of times in practice when me and him go one-on-one, but in the game there, I could see he wanted to be assertive and aggressive. I thought I played good defense, but yeah, he's got to keep coming at me.
There you go. Your turn, there you go.
I got ball.
Ball's loose.
Nice, all you, Pat. There you go, buddy.
Let's go, D, let's keep it going.
Even though I'm feeling tired right now and a little bit worn down from the grind over the last week, I definitely have a sense of joy and optimism out there. I feel like the team is as good as it's been this whole journey towards Tokyo, and that's great timing.
I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Pat puts he makes me work. You can't take a break for 1 second when he's on court. It just keeps you on your toes.
I'm not falling apart. My body's in pretty good shape. What motivates me is the same things that always motivated me. I love the game. I like the challenge of trying to get better, even at my age. I think there are things I can continue to improve. In some ways, skill-wise, I don't think I've ever been better.
That's the thing you'll hear from him. He doesn't feel like he's lost a bunch of speed, but he feels like it takes longer to recover and things hurt more. Like he pays for it every day that he has a hard game now. And it's just impressive to see, being able to go out and give that. When I met him, he was 30 years old, and he still plays just as hard at 41.
Come on, Blaze.
Focus, Blaze, focus. The culture of the team has really shifted towards the young guys, and they're really putting their stamp on it going forward. And that's what's important, because eventually I'm going to leave, and Bo and the other older guys, and if it's a big vacuum of leadership, then that's going to be a problem. But I don't see that. I see the opposite. I see the younger guys not only playing well, but assuming that leadership and putting their own stamp on the culture. And so I think they're going to be fine. They're going to be better than fine. I'm really excited to see what happens down the road.
There have been a few moments over the last few weeks when I'm here in my empty apartment by myself in my 40s on stiff bed, wondering what I'm doing here. Some days it feels like I'm over this, and you know, as a Paralympian, fame, fortune, those really were never really in the cards. That's not the motivation, never has been.
I admire Patrick Anderson as much as I do because he is probably, arguably, the greatest athlete his sport has ever seen, and yet he carries himself in such a humble, modest way, and yet still recognizes the responsibility that he has, the talent that he has, and I just think that that package is just so amazing and so rare in sport.
Some people would say, oh, you're risking your legacy to like try to be elite when you're 41 or 42 or however freaking old I am. But I don't really care about that stuff. I don't think about legacy too much. I don't know, I feel a lot of pressure to come through for the guys, especially for the younger guys.
At the Paralympics in Tokyo, I would hazard a guess that Canada will be competitive again. I think in his absence, in Patrick's absence, the team had fallen out of competitiveness to a certain point. I'm not saying that they can win the gold medal. I'm not saying that Patrick Anderson is counting on the gold medal, but they will be a tough team to face. Australia, Great Britain, the United States, every other team in the world that's going to be at the Paralympic Games does not want to take a chance and play Patrick Anderson and the Canadians in a game that counts.
It hasn't always been a real easy fit to be the face of a team or the face of a sport. I've always taken the expectations fairly seriously, and that has, you know, sharpened my focus at times when I was aware that when people were watching me play wheelchair basketball, it might have been the only time they'd have a chance to see it, and I wanted to put on a good show for them.
I don't think that he has to win gold with this group. I don't think that's his focus. I don't think that's his aim when all is said and done. I think he'd like to win a medal. I think he'd like to be competitive. I think he'd like to prove that he is still near or at the top of his game. But more importantly, I think he wants to light a fuse under Canadian wheelchair basketball and make it enjoyable and competitive for the next generation of players.
It's an exciting time. I mean, we may be back in the pack. You know, it could break either way for us into medal finish or the other way, realistically speaking, but it's exciting. I do hope that part of my legacy anyway is like having a positive impact on the younger players, whether it's directly through knowing them and helping coach or guide them, or just being friends or inspiring. I really want to see these guys as people and as players thrive and have success and do well.
Executive producers, Katie Lafferty, Ryan Marley. Director, Ryan Marley. Produced by Katie Lafferty. Cinematographer, Paul Duck. Editor, Gino Anderson. Narration, Jesse Jones. Music by The Layawakes, Jingle Punks. Integrated Described Video Specialist, Ron Rickford. Content Development Specialist, Michelle Dudas. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2021, Accessible Media, Inc.